Think you've seen all the zombie movies and shows worth watching? You're wrong. Today, I'm revealing 10 hidden gems that will crawl under your skin. These aren't your average zombie flicks. Prepare for a dark journey into the unknown.
Oh, God.
Number 10. The Returned. It is a chilling tale of a world where the dead come back to life, but only those who have been stung by a virus that did not kill them completely. Not only are the resurrected dead, but they are also burdened with a constant thirst for blood that is not easily controlled. The film focuses on two characters: the main doctor who conducts research into the treatment of the returners, and his wife, who is one of those who came back to life. Society struggles with tension and fear, and as the situation becomes more tense, the boundaries of morality begin to blur. It's worth watching this film if you like scary stories with deep moral dilemmas that draw you into a dark world where everyday life becomes a dangerous and uncertain terrain. The Returned is not just an ordinary horror film, but also a reflection on how extreme conditions affect human nature. Number 9. Rammbock. If you like stories that hold you in suspense and claustrophobic, scary scenarios are your vibe, Rammbock is sure to give you a powerful experience. This film is like an adrenaline hit, short, intense, and doesn't let you forget about yourself. Rammbock is a German horror film that takes the viewer into the middle of a zombie apocalypse set in crowded Berlin. What begins as a simple visit by Michael to his ex-girlfriend quickly turns into a nightmare when the city is overrun by terrifying, infected creatures. Locked in a cramped apartment, Michael must face not only external threats, but also his own fears and desperation. Number 8. Dead Set. Dead Set is a British horror series that draws viewers into a dark and frightening world where reality TV becomes a nightmare. The action of the series takes place on the set of a popular reality show, reminiscent of Big Brother. Viewers follow the lives of the participants locked in a house, completely cut off from the outside world. However, when a zombie apocalypse erupts outside, the participants do not realize that the world they know is about to turn into hell. When they finally realize that something is wrong, the fight for survival begins. The camera captures every moment of their desperate struggle for life in an environment where death lurks around every corner and any sound can attract a horde of hungry zombies. If you're ready for a brutal, merciless journey into a world where humanity is reduced to a fight for survival, then this series is definitely for you. Number 7. Ravenous. Ravenous is a dark and disturbing horror film that takes us to a world where humanity is on the brink of extinction. The story is set in an isolated Canadian village where a mysterious epidemic transforms people into bloodthirsty monsters. Those who survived must fight not only against the beasts, but also against the growing despair and madness that begins to overwhelm the survivors. The film is filled with an atmosphere of growing fear and tension, and the silence that accompanies the characters seems almost palpable. The viewer feels an ever-present dread, as every sound can mean imminent danger, and every shadow can conceal terrifying creatures that were once human. The Hungry Ones does not rely on cheap tricks to scare the viewer. Instead, the film gradually draws us deeper and deeper into the nightmare, making it hard to look away, even though you want to escape. Number 6. Extinction. Extinction is a film that draws the viewer into a claustrophobic nightmare where humanity stands on the brink of extinction. Imagine a world where our most terrifying nightmares become reality, and everything that seemed normal crumbles before our eyes. The plot tells the story of a group of people trying to survive in a world overrun by a mysterious virus that turns people into bloodthirsty, almost mindless monsters. As the epidemic spreads, the heroes struggle for life, seeking refuge and answers to what caused the cataclysm. They must confront not only the terrifying infected, but also the collapse of society and morality as they crumble in the face of annihilation. The film focuses on the tension, desperation, and brutality of survival, in a world where humanity is fighting for its last days. Number 5. Wyrmwood Road of the Dead. Wyrmwood Road of the Dead is a dark and brutal film which immerses the viewer in a nightmare overrun by hordes of bloodthirsty zombies. Imagine a world where at night the air trembles with the shrill howling of the undead, and the survivors struggle to survive in the shadow of this monstrous cataclysm. The film tells the story of Barry, an ordinary mechanic who suddenly loses everything he loves. His wife and daughter are brutally kidnapped by unknown forces, and Barry must face his worst nightmares to find them. With every moment he spends in this apocalyptic reality, his desperation and rage grows. Barry joins forces with other survivors, including the belligerent Brooke, who has her own demons to overcome. Together, they traverse a road full of mutated beasts, mad scientists, and horrifying experiments that make a person no longer human. Number 4. In the Flesh. In the Flesh is a British series that depicts the world after the zombie apocalypse, but not as you might think. Imagine that after a gruesome epidemic that turned people into the living dead, technology has made it possible to return them to apparent normalcy. Those who have returned from the dead are now trying to blend into society, but remain scarred by their past and are horrified by what they did as mindless monsters. The main character, Kieran Walker, is one of these returnees living with guilt and trauma, trying to find his place again in a small town full of prejudice, where the residents are not ready to forgive. You see the world trying to accept these changelings, but the gulf between the living and the reanimated grows deeper and deeper. The series is poignant, full of tension and darkness. It's a story about humanity struggling against the inhuman, and how fear can turn people into real monsters. It is frightening not only because of the horror theme of zombies, but especially by showing how cruel humanity can be to those who are different from the rest. Number 3. Mutants, a French horror film that takes us to a post-apocalypse world where humanity has been decimated by a virus that turns people into monstrous, bloodthirsty creatures. The main characters, Sonia and Marco, try to survive in this merciless reality by hiding in an abandoned gas station. However, this is no ordinary struggle for survival. Marco, who has been bitten, begins to slowly transform into one of the mutants. Sonia has to face not only external threats, but also the terrifying transformation of her partner, whom she is increasingly losing to the beast. His gradual transformation is a real nightmare in the open. His body transforms into a terrifying inhuman form, and his mind is overwhelmed by a savage bloodlust. Sonia faces a terrible choice. Will she be able to protect her beloved, or will she be forced to kill him before he becomes a mortal threat to her? Number 2. Here Alone. Here Alone from 2016 is a terrifying thriller which tells the story of loneliness, desperation, and the struggle for survival in a world devastated by a mysterious epidemic. The story centers on a young woman named Anne, who, after losing her family, is forced to live in complete isolation in the woods, avoiding the deadly threats lurking in the shadows. It seems that every sound could be the last, and every step could lead to an encounter with the unknown, making the tension build up with every minute. The film builds an atmosphere of horror and anxiety, focusing on the protagonist's psyche, which becomes increasingly fragile as she struggles with her own demons and memories. As Anne encounters other survivors, the question arises: can anyone still be trusted in a world where humans have become the greatest threat? Here Alone is not a typical horror film full of jump scares, but rather a slow, suffocating nightmare that draws the viewer into the protagonist's hopelessness and loneliness. Number 1. The Cured. Imagine living in a society where people live next door to you who just weeks earlier were bloodthirsty beasts, killing and devouring their loved ones. Tension builds as healthy people begin to feel fear and hatred towards the cured, who, despite their regained consciousness, carry the stigma of monsters. All this will be seen in the dark and terrifying thriller, The Cured, which penetrates to the very essence of human nature. The film tells the story of a world where humanity has barely dealt with the zombie apocalypse. A cure has been invented that restores consciousness to people previously transformed into zombies. However, those cured remember every atrocity they committed when they were monsters. The line between human and monster becomes frighteningly thin, and the film holds suspense until the very end. Thanks for joining me in the shadows. If you've got your own hidden horrors, share them in the comments. And remember, subscribe or you might miss something terrifying. Until next time, stay vigilant.